The Cloud Who Found Its Shadow. Once upon a time, in a sky painted with the softest blues and the brightest golds, there lived a little cloud named Nimbus. Nimbus was a small, puffy cloud, lighter than a feather and whiter than the cotton candy at a summer fair. He drifted high above mountains, meadows, and sparkling rivers, watching the world below with wide, curious eyes. But Nimbus was not quite like the other clouds. He was a dreamer. While the other clouds loved to race the wind or gather in great, thunderous crowds, Nimbus would float along quietly, imagining stories about the people and animals far below. Sometimes he would shape himself into a ship and pretend to sail across the endless blue, or puff out like a dragon and soar above the tallest peaks. Despite all his adventures, Nimbus often felt something was missing. He noticed that everything down below, trees, houses, even the children playing in the parks, had something special that he didn't: a shadow. He would watch as the sun cast gentle, cool shadows behind the birds gliding on the breeze, or see the long, playful silhouettes of children as they chased each other in the fading light. Nimbus wondered, why don't I have a shadow? Am I too light? Too high up? Or maybe, just maybe, shadows are only for things on the ground. The thought made Nimbus a little sad, for he longed to have a friend who would follow him everywhere, a friend made of shadow. One sunny morning, Nimbus drifted over a sleepy town, waking up to a new day. He watched as people opened their windows, yawned and stretched, their shadows stretching along the walls and sidewalks. A gentle breeze nudged Nimbus along, but he slowed down, wishing he could join the parade of shadows below. "Why do you look so down, little cloud?" called out a friendly lark, swooping nearby. "Oh, hello, lark," Nimbus replied with a sigh. "I wish I had a shadow like everyone else. Then I'd never be alone." The lark tweeted a cheerful note. "Shadows are lovely, but clouds are special too. Have you ever tried to look for your shadow?" Nimbus blinked in surprise. "But how? I'm so high up and shadows belong to the ground. I've never seen mine." The lark thought for a moment, then chirped. "Maybe you just haven't looked in the right places. Sometimes we find what we seek in the most unexpected ways." Nimbus pondered the lark's words as he floated along. That afternoon, the sky filled with soft golden sunlight. Nimbus noticed a wide lake below, its surface still and as shiny as a new coin. Curious, he drifted closer and peeked down. To his amazement, Nimbus saw something wonderful. A cloudy, puffy shape reflected on the lake's surface, following his every move. When he wiggled, the shape wiggled. When he stretched, it stretched. Nimbus giggled with delight. "Is that my shadow?" The lake shimmered and seemed to whisper, "I reflect all who come close. Your shadow is here, in my waters." Nimbus was overjoyed. He danced across the sky, watching his reflection twirl and bounce on the sparkling lake. He realized that his shadow had always existed. It just lived in a different place, one that needed a little searching to find. From that day on, Nimbus visited lakes, ponds, and even shiny city windows. Everywhere he went, he found his shadow waiting to greet him. Sometimes, he'd invite other clouds to join, and together, they'd watch as their fluffy shapes danced on the water's mirror. Nimbus learned that being different was wonderful, and that sometimes what you're looking for might be waiting in a place you never thought to look. And though he still floated high above the world, Nimbus was never lonely again, for he had found his shadow, a friend who would always dance with him, wherever the breeze might blow. And so, Nimbus, the little cloud, drifted on, filling the sky with joy, wonder, and the gentle promise that every heart, no matter how small or high, can find its own special shadow. As Nimbus continued his journey above the world, he began to notice how many different kinds of shadows there were. He saw butterflies dancing in the sun, their delicate wings creating tiny, fluttering shadows on the petals below. He watched tall pine trees standing proud, their long, dark shapes stretching across the forest floor. Even the smallest pebble had a shadow, a little echo of itself resting nearby. Nimbus wondered if every cloud could find its shadow, just as he had. So one afternoon, he gathered his courage and floated over to a cluster of fluffy clouds, playing hide and seek with the sun. "Hello, friends," Nimbus called out. "Did you know that if you look down into a lake or a shiny window, you can see your very own shadow?" The other clouds paused, curious. Stratus, a long, wispy cloud, drifted over and peered into a pond below. "Oh, there I am," she exclaimed, delighted to see her reflection rippling across the water. Cumulus, a big, bouncy cloud, bounced over a shiny car roof and laughed as his puffy shape glowed in the reflection. "Look at me, I'm upside down. Gamek." The clouds giggled and floated from one reflective surface to another, learning the secret that Nimbus had discovered. They played and danced, their shadows and reflections joining them in a joyful ballet across the earth below. Nimbus felt his heart soar. He realized that sometimes it takes just one cloud to show others the way, to help them see the world from a new perspective. As the days turned to weeks, Nimbus became known as the cloud who found his shadow. Little by little, animals and people below began to notice the cloud's playful shapes reflected in lakes and puddles. Children would point and laugh, imagining stories about the cloud's adventures in the sky. One day, as Nimbus floated above a city park, he saw a little girl sitting quietly by a pond. She seemed lonely, tracing shapes in the water with her finger. Nimbus drifted closer, casting his reflection beside her. The girl looked up and gasped in surprise. "Hello, little cloud," she whispered. "Is that your shadow?" Nimbus glowed with happiness. He wished he could answer her out loud, but instead he danced and swirled, making funny shapes in the sky. The girl giggled and began to draw pictures of Nimbus and his shadow in her notebook. From that day on, whenever the little girl felt alone, she would visit the pond and look for Nimbus. Sometimes she'd see him, and sometimes she'd see other clouds, but she always found a friend in their gentle dancing shadows. Nimbus realized that even though he was a cloud, he could make a difference in someone's day, just by being himself and sharing his light with the world. As the seasons changed, Nimbus watched the world below transform. In spring, flowers bloomed and birds sang. In summer, the lakes sparkled under the warm sun. In autumn, leaves turned brilliant shades of red and gold, their shadows swirling in the breeze. In winter, snow blanketed the ground, and the sky filled with soft, silvery clouds. Through it all, Nimbus continued his journey, exploring new places and meeting new friends. He discovered that sometimes shadows could be found in the most unexpected places: a shiny spoon, a puddle after rain, or even in the twinkle of a child's eye. Nimbus learned that everyone has a shadow, a part of themselves that follows wherever they go. Sometimes you see it clearly, and sometimes you have to look a little closer, but it's always there, waiting to remind you that you are never truly alone. And so, Nimbus floated on, a happy little cloud with a big heart and a shadow that danced by his side. He knew that life was full of mysteries and surprises, and that the best adventures often began with a single question: what if? And every time the sun peeked out from behind the clouds, and every time a child looked up and smiled, Nimbus knew that he was exactly where he belonged, high above the world, sharing his story and reminding everyone below that even the smallest cloud can find its shadow. As the years passed, Nimbus became a legend among the clouds. New generations of fluffy, dreamy clouds would listen wide-eyed as the older clouds told the tale of Nimbus, the cloud who found his shadow. Some clouds were shy and quiet, like Nimbus had been. Others were bold and loved to race the wind. But no matter what kind of cloud they were, each one learned from Nimbus's story that they had a special place in the sky and a special shadow waiting just for them. Sometimes, when the sun set and the world was painted in shades of orange and pink, Nimbus would gather with his cloud friends to watch their shadows stretch long and gentle across the land. The lakes and rivers would turn to mirrors, reflecting the clouds' shapes in shimmering patterns. The clouds would laugh and tell stories, their voices soft as the evening breeze. And as the stars began to twinkle, Nimbus would close his eyes and feel peaceful, knowing that his shadow was always there, a loyal friend, a gentle companion, and a reminder that even in the vast sky, you are never alone. And so, Nimbus's story drifted across the world, carried on the wind and whispered in the rustle of leaves and the ripples of water. It was a story of hope, friendship, and discovery. A story that reminded everyone, no matter how high they soared or how far they traveled, that happiness can be found when you look for the light in unexpected places. And wherever there is a cloud in the sky and a child with a dream, Nimbus's gentle spirit will always be there, dancing with his shadow and inviting you to look up, imagine, and believe in the magic of your own story. As Nimbus floated on, he realized how much he had grown. He wasn't just a small, lonely cloud anymore. He was a cloud who had found his place in the world, a cloud who had learned to turn his questions into adventures, his worries into wonder, and his dreams into stories that could touch the hearts of everyone below. So the next time you see a cloud reflected in a lake, or catch your own shadow waving beside you, remember Nimbus, the little cloud who found his shadow, and know that every curious heart has its own adventure waiting to begin. And so, the sky remained a canvas for clouds and dreams, and Nimbus's story continued, ever drifting, ever shining, ever inspiring those who look up and wonder. The end.